Now, recipes are the formal guide one uses to blend ingredients. Whether it involves blending two nice old acoustic guitars, one for rhythm and one for lead, or blending ingredients to make wonderful dishes like the garlic fries at San Francisco's Giant Stadium, it's the formality of documenting the quantity of each ingredient that makes a recipe. As most tobacco you buy is already a blend of various tobaccos, these blending demonstrations are really nothing more than combining a number of existing blends that we already enjoy in order to create a final blend that may be even more satisfying than the sum of its parts. The base component of the following 5-component blend is DNR's Pinhooker Light. Now, logically, tobacco should be chosen for blending when they complement or enhance characteristics of each other. This Canadian blend burns a little hotter than the other components we will use, and this extra heat helps to efficiently release the more subtle elements of each of the other components while still providing its own unique flavor. The next ingredient we'll use is DNR's new Windsail Platinum. Now, this is an exceptionally high-quality flue-cured Virginia tobacco. It will add just a bit of sweetness and mellowness to the final blend. This is truly a world-class tobacco, and its wonderfully smooth flavor is not lost even when used in blending. Please remember that the roll your own and make your own experience is really about you being entirely in control of not only what you smoke, but how much you smoke as well. Now, the third element of this blend is one that may surprise many of our readers. It's a burley, which, as most readers of RYO Magazine know, is not one of my favorite strains of tobacco. But this is no ordinary burley. It's DNR's double-toasted two-timer, and this double toasting gives it a very nutty, smooth taste without the earthy, vegetal characteristics that I find distracting in most burleys. It's very reminiscent of old Chesterfield and Lucky Strike cigarettes of 35 or 40 years ago. This is some really good stuff. Now, the next component is DNR Tobacco's Ramback Turkish, and we'll cover this tobacco extensively in the tobacco characteristics section. Needless to say, we use this in every one of our blends to some extent. Unbelievable tobacco. And the final component is Peter Stokkebye's new London Export. Now, this is a very, very mild half-swar. And we use it in this blend to get a little bit of that exotic nature, that old world European nature to this blend without overpowering it. This, like I said, is very mild with little dark-fired tobacco in it. Very tasty stuff, and it adds a lot to the blend. Now it's time to measure each component for this 1-ounce blend. We're using the My Way I-2500 scale from HBI Technologies. Refer to the video on scales in this section for more detail on this highly functional and accurate device, as well as how to use it. We're setting the mode to pounds and ounces in order to get percentages, which are the easiest to deal with in 1-ounce blends. For example, 1/10 of an ounce will equal 10% of the final blend. By using an accurate scale such as this one, you'll be able to precisely duplicate your successes or adjust your not-so-successful attempts. Now, this part of the procedure is very laid back. There's no rush. You take your time. You can see the scale is very accurate. It's accurate to 2/100ths of an ounce, 1/200th of an ounce. Therefore, it doesn't take much at all to bump it up 2/100ths of an ounce. Even breathing on it will cause it to bump up almost 1/2 of an ounce. So try to use this scale or any accurate scale in a fairly draft-free environment. So we've got about 40% Pinhooker in here now, and now we're going to add the Windsail Platinum to bring the blend total up to about 60%. As you can see, it's kind of hovering at 58/100ths of an ounce. And we let it sit there and stabilize a minute, and then finally throw a little bit more on there to get our 0.6 ounces, or 60%. Now again, the next element is going to be the burley, and we're going to use about 10% of that. This is really good stuff. I tell you, I'm just amazed at this burley tobacco. And now it brings it up to about 70%. Then we're going to throw in the Ramback Turkish from DNR Tobacco. Again, no blend would be complete without this, in my opinion, at least some of this. And then finally topping it off with Peter Stokkebye's London Export to give it that exotic, almost Egyptian-like cigarette flavor from many years ago. Interesting stuff. There you have it. Now we're up to about an ounce, so we've done our weighing and measuring. Now it's time to blend these tobaccos together. And the most important part of blending tobaccos together is to be very gentle with the strands. These tobaccos have been setting out for a little while now since you've been weighing them, and they can become dry and brittle. Not too much, but enough that you can damage them if you're not careful. So gently folding them back and forth. I use the analogy of shuffling a deck of cards a lot when I'm speaking of blending tobacco, but it really is like shuffling a deck of antique cards that you do not want to damage. Very gently, back and forth. And again, because we have two components in this blend that are rather dark, the Turkish and the London Export, it's easy to see when those elements become fairly evenly distributed, which tells you that all of the tobacco is becoming fairly evenly distributed. But it takes about an ounce to blend. It takes about a minute to blend an ounce of tobacco. Again, taking care to not break any of the strands. And remember, when you're finished with all of this, wash your hands thoroughly, because nicotine is absorbed quite efficiently through the skin, and you can get a heck of a buzz if you're not careful. But after about a minute or so, you'll see an even distribution of the tobacco. And there we have our ounce blend now, and I always put it in a baggie, again grabbing it very gently. And we're going to want to return some moisture to this because, again, it's been setting out somewhat. Now, don't try to get all the tobacco in it. Get as much as your fingers can easily grab. But the remaining powder, discard, because it only serves to help jam injectors. I throw a little bit of a lightly moist sponge in the tobacco bag and roll it up, and that basically takes care of it. Give it about a half an hour, and this tobacco is absolutely perfect, a wonderful blend. Now, among the many advantages of the make your own and roll your own methodology is that you get to choose precisely which tobacco you want in your cigarette at any given time. By blending various tobaccos together, the experience can be enhanced even further, and you'll find yourself continually intrigued at the variety of taste sensations that are possible.